Today on Libertas video, we're going to be reviewing Reallusion's Iconic Hero Motions Pack. Welcome to Libertas Video, the channel dedicated to encouraging, entertaining, and inspiring you. Now today we're going to be taking a look at another animation pack by Reallusion, which is the Iconic Hero Motions Pack. Now this pack is really designed to help you showcase your animated characters, especially those that are using historical or fantasy weapons. And while I've had my eye on this pack for a while, for full transparency, Reallusion did supply me this animation pack for review. But what follows are my honest opinions so that you can make a wise purchasing decision. First off, let's take a broad look at this animation pack. It contains 48 high-quality motion captured animations. They're really designed to help you showcase your characters that are using classical weapons like swords, spears, knives, or even bare hands. These animations are subdivided into 5 main categories. There's the single-handed, there's the two-handed, there's the dual-wielding, as well as bare hands, and a category for walk and idle animations. Each animation type typically does a singular performance or showcases a weapon, and these really help to bring your characters to life. These somewhat remind me of 2 types of animations that you'd find in video games. Particularly, like the first one would be like when you're selecting a character in a game like For Honor. So you select the character and they do like a weapons flourish. So you know right away this character is a sword user or they use knives or something. So that type of thing where you're selecting a character and it showcases the class that they're in. The other one would be like an opening cinematic, like your character's walking into the arena and you see the barbarian from Gaul and he's swinging it around his axe and you know it's about to go down in this fight. Those are the type of animations that I see these like reminding me a lot of. So what do I like about this pack? First off, they're very high quality. It's extremely satisfying to apply them to your character, especially one that you've worked on for a while, and see them come to life. Especially, if they're holding a sword or a weapon in their hand, you just see them do these elaborate moves. It's very, very satisfying. You can tell a lot of care went into really capturing the performances done for these animations. By far, my favorite are the sword animations. I think they're really, really well done. And of course, all of these animations apply so well to the characters that I create. Mine are mostly classical to medieval history styled characters, or you have the fantasy-based characters overall like using classical weapons essentially. So these apply very well to me and to my characters that I'm creating, and that's how I intend to use this pack going forward. Is I want to share the characters that I'm working on with my community, and I feel like these are so good for that, to really bring them to life in this flourish of animation. And many of these animations, although they do have a specific like name or weapons type that they do recommend within the title, so you have a great axe or a giant axe type of animation, I feel like sometimes they can be used for alternate weapons as well. So you could have a weapons recommendation for an axe, but that could also be applied to a spear or a banner, even potentially used for a Highlander's claymore or even like a great sword. So it showcases that there's a lot of versatility to these packs that's really just limited to your imagination. So I think that's a pretty big highlight for this pack, is that not every single thing that is titled specifically has to be used that way. And so I think that gives you even more kind of animations at your disposal. Also, I really like that they do have male and female motions in this animation pack. It was one of my critiques of the Assassin Moves animation pack that Reallusion does as well. I did that review and I was a little disappointed that they didn't have those motions, because I do feel like male and female, they do move differently based on their physiology. The way our hips are oriented in our bodies tends to lead our bodies to interact differently. So, and just like with that Assassin Moves pack though, I'm not saying that you can't use the animations across genders. I think it's a little easier to take male motions and apply them to female characters than vice versa. But either way, I'm really glad that those distinctions are in this animation pack, the female motions, the male motions, because I do think even those subtle differences in how we move and walk and even just position ourselves, I think those subtle differences really help bring the realism to your characters. Of course, there are always places for improvement with any product. This one in particular, I find that sometimes the animations can be a little eccentric. What I mean by that is kind of the really over the top right out of the box. Now that can be okay in some instances, especially in the 3D realm, because because sometimes you need to be over exaggerated to kind of cast that performance out a little bit more, and convey it to your audience. But sometimes I feel like there's certain poses, or for instance, there's this animation called Grumpy Claw. Just the way that the animation plays out and then the end pose, I'm not really quite sure what to do with that. But maybe you have an idea, and if you do, put it in the comment section below, because I'd love to hear it. And maybe then I could apply it to a character in the future. So yeah, otherwise, that's one of my critiques, is that they can be a little eccentric. Also, I would love it if these animations were a little bit more loopable. And what I mean by that is, especially as showcase animations, that they would start from an idle pose, do the animation, and then return to the idle pose. That way you can kind of build some animations back to back to back. So if I had one sword animation, they do a flourish, and then they could then go into another flourish, but always returning into that idle pose so that I could kind of chain it. Right now, the way it's built out, they're a little bit more like you're thrown into the action and then it ends on this pose. So you can have this like kind of iconic pose at the end. However, that really stops you from being able to extend your showcase. So if I wanted to showcase one of my characters, say Alexander, he does a flourish and then he kind of ends at this pose. Well, that's all I have to work with. That's as long as my showcase is going to be. If I had, say, it loopable, where it goes from the idle, he does the motion, goes back to the idle, then does another motion, I could take what was a 5-second showcase and turn it into a 10-second showcase if I wanted to show a little bit more of my character. So that's where my head's at when I'm saying that I think they would be better loopable. I mean, of course, you can always make your own transitionary motions. That's one of the beauties of working with something like iClone, is you can kind of work around that. But it would have been nice to have that right out of the box. But other than that, I don't really have anything negative that I can say about this animation pack, other than that I just want more animations. But there are 48 high quality animations here, and I've already talked about how versatile they are. You can apply different weapons to different specified animation types, so you do have even broader extended range. So I guess what I'm really looking for is maybe a sequel to this animation pack, an Iconic Hero Motions Pack version 2. That's probably what I'm looking for. So one of the things that I did want to bring up, though, is if you wanted to make your animations look a little bit more realistic. I didn't see this in any of the demo footage, so I just wanted to bring it up for you. If you want to make and utilize this animation pack and make them even more realistic. In real life, when you do some of these exaggerated flourishes, so like spinning a sword around your wrist, there is a high amount of finesse to it in terms of how you rotate that around your wrist, and not just that, but how you apply specific pressure between your forefinger and your thumb, or your index finger and your thumb, and allow like your other fingers to go a little bit more loose as you rotate. So it allows the sword to kind of really bend back and swoop around. So if you're doing that for film or anything like that, that's how you really get some really epic showcases. The way it's set up right now, you can just apply the sword and parent it to the hand bone, and you're going to get an okay animation. But if you want to make a little bit more realistic, a little bit more elaborate, and really amp up that animation, just go about that with the realistic principle, as it needs to rotate around a specific point in the hand. So my recommendation would be to take the pivot point of your prop, whether it be your sword or your spear or whatever, your daggers, could be whatever, apply a pivot point to a nice rotational position of the sword where it interacts with the hand. So say for a sword, be right under the cross guard and right in between the index finger and the thumb. That way, as the animation rotates the hand, you can rotate the prop specifically and really exaggerate the movement, really help showcase this. You can even see this in some of the animations themselves. You can see the fingers kind of lift up. So the performers were actually doing this on their own. But just the way that 3D works, if you just parent it, that's not going to naturally come through. So you're going to need to do your own little tweaks and animations. But if you set up your prop properly with those nice pivot points, you'd even be able to get it so that you can actually have the sword like spin in the hand. So you can go from like the standard sword above the hand to sweeping it around. It comes back down more like that iconic dagger look. So that's just some cool tips for you if you want to make your animations look a little bit more realistic with this pack. So who is this animation pack for? Well, I would say it's for anybody who has characters that they want to showcase, especially using classical weapons. But if you have a character that you've worked a really long time on, whether it be the character itself, maybe how you've sculpted it, or the clothing and the costumes that you've textured really well, or the swords and weapons that have such intricate details that you've modeled into them. I think these do such a great job of bringing those characters and those accessories to life. And so I think that's who it's for. But it also could be used for anybody who is doing cinematics, characters that are fighting, maybe even on the battlefield. You got some execution moves in here. You have, raising up and getting the crowd involved or your troops involved. So those can be used as well for cinematics. Basically, if you have characters that are in this historical or fantasy realm using classical weapons like that, I think this is a really great pack for you. So would I recommend this animation pack? And of course I would. I think they do such a great job. If you're like me and you have characters that use those classical weapons types, they do such a great job of bringing them to life. Like I said before, I also did a review on Reallusion's Assassin Moves animation pack, which I think is a good companion to this animation pack. It's a little bit more focused on the stealth and subterfuge, has some bow animations in it as well, but it's really good for characters that are kind of in the same realm of that classical, medieval, or fantasy genres. So definitely, if you want to check that out, I'll put a link in the description below where you can find our video review on that. Otherwise, I'll put links in the description below where you can find this content pack as well. It's going to be available in 2 specific locations. It's going to be available on Reallusion's Actor Core as well as Reallusion's Content Marketplace. It's the exact same content. It's just going to be, whichever one you prefer to purchase it from. Again, I would highly recommend it. And if you're going to be using this animation pack for your own endeavors, let me know in the comment section below what you're using it for. What kind of characters are you creating? What kind of stories are you telling with them? I'd be really excited to hear what you're using it for. You can always reach out to us on Instagram or Facebook at Libertas Video. Instagram might be a little easier if you want to get in contact with us a little sooner. I check that a little bit more regularly. But if you want to get in contact with us, that's the place to do it. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next Libertas video.